I spent years at Cambridge Medical School, became a doctor, and literally published research in addiction and mental health. Even most doctors don't know how to deal with stress themselves. And this is what I've learned from years of mindfulness meditation, studying neurobiology and psychology to create the most simple way, the most simple model of understanding stress. So you're going to understand this model, and I'm going to give you 3 pieces of no BS practical advice that you can actually use today to reduce your stress now and permanently in your life. In the most simplest sense, the stress that you feel in your mind is determined by your reality versus your expectations. So your brain builds a model of you and the world around you, and that model is designed to predict what happens in the future based on all of the previous data that it's got from things that have already happened. Your brain wants to predict what's going to happen because it wants to keep you safe. And the more accurate your brain's model, your expectations are to reality, the more safe that you are. Now, your brain's model of the world is actually more complicated than I made out here. I've put it in the frontal cortex here, but some of it's in the hippocampus. But whatever it is, at some point there is a store of this model in your brain. And what happens is your senses of what is actually happening in reality are compared in some way to your existing expectations, your existing model, and then you get a situation where there's a difference between the two. So let's say back in the wild, you're going to your normal watering hole to collect water for the tribe. And let's say every single time you've gone there, it's been safe, you haven't seen anybody around. And so your expectation is that it's going to be safe. Your brain's model of that environment at that particular time is that it's safe, no one else is there. But then as you walk through, your senses are there to detect what reality actually is. And so if you're walking down to this normal watering hole that is normally safe and you see a lion, then your reality is that there's a lion there. And then it gets compared with the expectation of it being safe. And at that point, if your reality is more dangerous than your expectations, then you become stressed. So at the point in which your brain is comparing what is happening in reality to the model in your mind, you get these sorts of scenarios. And so like in the lion example, your reality was much worse than your expectations. And then when your reality is worse than your expectations, then you get stressed. But then the opposite could be the case, right? Let's say every single time you walk down to the water hole, there were lions. But then one day that you actually see that and you expect that there's going to be some dangerous things going on the way to get the water. But then your eyes actually see when you're there, there's no one there, then your expectations are much lower than the reality of the situation. And then when your reality is better than your expectations, you're relaxed. It's the opposite. Stress is not a defect. Your stress is designed for this particular situation where your brain's model is better than the reality. Because then what happens is you get your sympathetic nervous system going, and then you get all of the adrenaline, the hormones, everything going on because you need to be prepared to run or fight something that you haven't predicted yet. And this makes complete sense because when this is the case, you are not safe because you don't know what's out there because your brain's model is inaccurate in a dangerous way. And in this case, the world is actually better than your brain's model of it. And so you relax. And then what happens? You become comfortable, and then you get your parasympathetic nervous system going on there because that's the rest and digesting. It's when you can be comfortable, you can let yourself recover and, be healthier after digesting all your food because now you have the time and it's safe to do so. And so this is how stress is related from your psychology to your biology, and it all sort of makes sense. But the thing is, a lot of people in the world say to minimize stress, but stress is functional. Stress can actually help you. And so the first thing of the no BS advice that I want to give you today is to welcome the right stress. Now you could say from all of this that if I keep my expectations low, then I'll minimize my stress. But stress is actually useful because if you have this gap between your expectations and reality, then you have a drive to actually do something about it and change your reality so it gets closer to your expectations. In life, you are always going to have stress because this is never ever going to be right. And stress isn't necessarily a bad thing. Anybody that has stress means that their expectations are higher than what the world actually is. And anybody that's ever been successful has been stressed because they've had high expectations. Michael Jordan, Elon Musk, all of these people. You're going to say that they didn't have stress? These guys had stress, but they had stress in something that was actually important to them. So the right sort of stress, if you actually have a goal, and you want to get there, that's not a bad thing. If you don't have stress, you are not ambitious. And I would tell everyone to have ambitions that they really care about. And then the next thing is to destroy your ego. A lot of people are stressed these days because they get stressed because they see everyone on social media and they compare themselves because they're not as good as other people in the things that they see, right? And they get stressed because they might fail at things and make mistakes. But really, you're just a stupid monkey. If you haven't done something successfully, you cannot expect yourself not to fail. You have to fail until you succeed. And so you have to stop thinking of yourself as you expect yourself to be good at things before you even start and before you make mistakes. Anyone that's ever done anything useful has made more mistakes than anyone that hasn't, right? Every successful person has made more mistakes than even the people that aren't successful. Don't expect yourself not to make mistakes. Don't expect things to be easy. Don't expect your progress to look like this. It's going to probably be like this. And at that point, if you understand that, if your expectations are managed towards that and who you are and that you're going to make mistakes, then you won't be as stressed. You're going to stumble around, you're going to procrastinate, you're going to be broke, you're going to make mistakes, but that's all part of the process. You have to destroy your expectation of not making any mistakes and having your life be a nice curve upwards. It's never going to be like that, and that's okay. And then the last thing, you can do as much meditation and journaling as you want and, manage and destroying your ego as much as you want to manage your expectations. But stress, if it's going to be useful, stress has to be combined with action. And so what you need to do, as blunt as it sounds, is to fix your life. If you do those things, but your reality is still something that you are not happy with, then you are going to be stressed. And so you need to combine your stress with your action in order to change your reality. Stress is useful, as I said, because it can help you if you do the right things to elevate your reality such that your expectations are matched and you don't feel as bad. But you're going to get to a point where at least where you feel content, generally speaking. And yeah, you can aim for more, and that's part of life. But you want to use that stress to drive you to fix your reality. People die early because they're in chronic stress, and instead of using that stress, they numb themselves to it. They watch TV, they distract themselves, and then they stay in this chronic stressful situation that they're in, and that's why they die early. What you need to do is instead of numbing yourself, instead of distracting yourself, use that energy, use the stress to fix your life such that you change your reality so you don't have to stay stressed for the rest of your life. So if you hate your job right now and it's not going to give you what you want in the end of the day, do something about it. If your relationship isn't making you happy, do something about it. If your friends aren't really the friends that you want to be with, if they're not helping you to reach your goals, if you have high expectations and they're never meeting them, leave them. You have to fix your reality, and at that point, that's when you can manage your stress properly. Do all of these things. And the most important thing about this is to make sure that you combine your stress with your actions. And if you want to make sure that you have all of the time to do the actions that will correctly fix your reality, then click this video on screen where I explain my philosophy and the psychology of time management that allows me to do everything that I want to do.